Hello, everyone. This is Marisa B. Welcome to Radiant Living, Inspiring Humanity to Thrive. Today, I have with me Angelika Bendrich, correct? It's Bendrich. She's the founder and CEO of Fundamentals of Life. It's a service company dedicated to providing effective pathways to maximum health and wellness. Angelika is a certified registered counselor, a Reiki Master, and a holistic nutritionist. She has over 40 years experience in health, wellness, and education. Hello, Angelika. Thank you so much for joining us today. How are you doing?
Great. My pleasure to be here. Thank you, Maurice.
Oh, you're quite welcome. Can you tell the audience a little bit about yourself and how you came to the healing field?
Yes, I'd be delighted to give you a little overview of how I got into this field. It wasn't a conscious choice. It was my life path from one event unfolding into the next. I'll start off telling you that I'm child number 6 out of 7 to my parents aged 29 and 35. So my mom wasn't even 30 yet when she had 6 children under the age of 10. And you can imagine how busy it was trying to meet all their needs.
Mm-hmm. No, indeed.
I grew up in the countryside of Germany, and we grew our own food, had our own livestock, and it was a very small community. Everybody knew everybody. People knew more about me than I did. And German Canadian means that my German side makes me want to be schnell and perfect about everything. And my Canadian side helps me to say, I'm sorry when I can't deliver, which is a blessing. It's a built-in perfectionistic tendency in the German culture. We want to be efficient. My mom died when I was 12 years old after a journey of 6 years of cancer within and out of.
So sorry to hear that. Yes.
And that was a tragic loss. My dad did not know how to handle a family of 7 now, his own. And out of his desperation, he met a woman that had the same name as his sister, same birthday as my mom, came from the same town as him. They married, and it was a disaster. She was a city woman, he was a countryman, and it led to a 2-year roller coaster marriage and a nasty divorce. And in the emotional upheaval and the inability to deal with emotions. I don't know if you know much about the German culture, but we're so efficient and focused on getting things done. There's not much time given to emotions. It's kind of like, and it gets stuffed. And for me, stuffing emotions, just for many other people, they have to go somewhere. It's trying to hold a beach ball underwater. Try to do that. After a while, it comes out sideways somewhere. And that is what happened for me. So I developed health challenges that were undetected until I was 29. The age my mother was when she gave birth to me, I almost died. I had undetected food allergies to lactose and gluten intolerance, and my digestive system was actually destroying itself. The microvilli in the gut, the extension of the microvilli, were cut off by the gluten that I was intolerant to. Kind of cut, and leaky gut sets in. And from leaky gut, undigested proteins go into the bowel walls, into the bloodstream. And that protein of gluten is very similar to the protein in our joints. So it was attacking my joints. And at age 29, I had arthritis. I had an autoimmune because the body was attacking itself. I had chronic fatigue, and I developed cancer.
Oh my gosh.
I almost died, which was in hindsight, a blessing in disguise. What ended up happening, my immune system breaking down, and at age 29, I had the life force, the biological age of a 92-year-old. I could not even bend to tie my own shoes. I had 20% of my life force. I wasn't digesting. My immune system broke down. I was barely functioning. I would literally go into a grocery store and run out of energy and have to sit down. Chronic fatigue. I was not getting the fuel to sustain my life. And out of that desperation, I was looking for help in the medical field. And I found a medical doctor who was also a naturopathic doctor who introduced me to a modality called German New Medicine, which it's then evolved into meta medicine, which is a wonderful revolutionary healing system that that identifies that the underlying root cause of dis-ease, the body does not function at optimal, is actually undigested emotional trauma. And you can see that for all of us, we can't go through life without things happening that weren't supposed to, or things that were supposed to not happening. And we don't know what to do with it. That something traumatic happened that wasn't expected, that had a huge impact that we have no strategy to dealing with. How does a 6-year-old deal with a mother being in the hospital and nobody talks about why?
Right.
And
so young. You were so young at the time. Now, was this in Canada or in Germany?
That was in Germany. I did not come to Canada until I was 21. But
okay.
And that desire out of being second youngest in a family of so many older siblings, and the communication not being there, not identifying, no emotional intelligence. Yeah. So I was known as a child that never smiled. I was chronically sad because I could never release all of the confusion and the traumas, and it was just stuffing down, building disease. So
well, think about it. A large task for an adult. Imagine a child, right? It's 100 times worse because they're just developing. They don't even have the words often. Even if they could explain, they have no words to explain what's happening.
Yeah, that's right. We need to give children the modeling of languaging and the emotional expressions and being okay. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to be confused. It's okay to be scared. And my journey was complicated by the fact that out of the need for love and attention, which is hard for parents that young to provide the emotional and physical needs of children, a group of 7 kids. I was raised more by my older sisters than my mom and dad because they just couldn't. There was not enough of them to go around. Then my mom dying. And then in my family system, there was a lot of sexual abuse to complicate matters. So my uncle, my dad, my cousin, my brother, all inappropriately try to find their needs to be met through using their sexual needs being met inappropriately. So when there's scarcity on their needs being met, people grab for survival mode, and inappropriate behavior happens, and more confusion and guilt and shame that somehow that's all I deserve. And I don't have over my own body. Say no means nothing, right? And no choices. My family system.
No, you're perpetrated upon.
Yeah. And my family system.
That's how it is.
Yeah. And so women had a very low status. They were just there to serve the male and didn't have choice or voice. And that was just the way it was. When I confronted my dad about it, when I almost died of the journey of cervical cancer, I almost bled to death. And I confronted my dad saying, I'm not dying. I survived the cancer journey, not like my mom who succumbed to it. And that it harmed me what happened in childhood. And his honest reply was that nobody ever got harmed by this behavior and everybody was doing it. And that was his truth. That is how he grew up, that everybody was using women for their own sexual pleasure, abusing them. And the harming factor might have never been acknowledged because women didn't talk. It took me 8 years of living in Canada, speaking a second language of English, before I could even address the impact that the sexual abuse had on me, because it happens to everybody. Why talk about it? Get busy. There was no right process.
It doesn't have this is a sticky point with me because I've counseled children for many years, and so I know the statistics. 8 out of 10 children are assaulted, generally by somebody they know. So, but it doesn't happen to every child. It happens to many children, but not every child. And a parent has to be diligent. No matter how tired you are, and no matter how quick you want to run in a store and leave your child with someone else. You have to be diligent. You have to have your eyes on your child. That's just how it is. So I'm just surprised. I understand what you're saying, that your father was discussing possibly the vision of women in his time frame, how they treated women. But was he even talking about that as assaulting children? Did he just address the issue of how women were treated in general?
Oh, that's what fathers did to their daughters, and nobody ever got harmed. And I know my sisters are 7 and 10 years older, and they don't even have memory, which is a common sign when we've had traumatic incidences that were too big to fathom. Right? Our subconscious.
Well, this is a person you're supposed to trust.
Yeah.
You trust this person. Once your innocence is robbed, and it is robbed from that behavior, it never is going to come back. And if it's an individual that you've trusted and you're to look to for protection, that's why many people internalize that pain. Some actually create other personas to help that wound heal or to survive in life, which I'm sure you know as a counselor. And I know that you deal with people that suffer from loss and people that suffer from abuse.
Yeah, so I was fortunate that I lived in a spiritual community at the time, but this was my healing journey with cancer and my confronting my abusers and dealing with the deflection, because there was no ownership. It was just this, oh no, everybody did it, which is a common deflection. Like, oh, well, it must be okay if everybody does it. And dealing with that reality split. And it was my blessing that I came from Germany to Canada, that I learned, my first profession was an early childhood educator, learning what does it mean to have a healthy childhood upbringing where your needs are actually met. So by teaching, I learned to have a second childhood. And here's the good news, it's never too late to have a second childhood. And we can reclaim our lost innocence from childhood. That is never too late. I believe that our birthright is to have peace and joy, and our innocence can be attacked. They can try to rob it from us, but we can claim it, saying it's ours and it will always be ours. So that is my introduction to why I chose, okay, I needed help. So I saw a counselor who also did energy work. She was a Reiki Master and a psychotherapist counselor. And she combined those two modalities to help me find my voice, empty out the emotions that got stuck and suppressed, and all the secrets and the shame and how it had eaten away on the inside. I couldn't digest life experiences. I couldn't digest food. My immune system broke down. I was 20% of my life was energy. So with her help of reclaiming my power, making sense of what happened, what's theirs, what's mine, handing back what's not mine, I was able to improve my physical health, mental health, and emotional health. But it took quite a long ride of many years to get there, because it was counseling, it was energy work, and it was the nutritional factors coming together. So I became a nutritionist first to help stabilize my physical body, and realizing that you can't just change your diet and lifestyle. You also have to address the relationships and the mental emotional impact. So after my 2-year training as a nutritionist, I enrolled in a 3-year program to become a transpersonal counselor with the Clear Mind Institute. And they were in person in British Columbia. So I moved from Ontario to British Columbia, place unseen, because I wanted to take that program. And I got a job as a holistic nutritionist working in a vitamin and supplement company, traveling through BC and Alberta, and educating doctors and naturopaths and nutritionists on what supplements this company had to offer. That was a wonderful way for me to get a feel for the healing community in British Columbia. It's quite extensive. There's a lot of different healing modalities available. And from my part-time training to become a counselor, I specialized in grief, loss, and trauma due to my own journey. And I now combine it with holistic nutrition. And I became a Reiki Master 30 years ago because that hands-on healing, I didn't know what it felt like to be unconditionally touched without anybody wanting something from me or punishing me, just lovingly touching me to give to me. It's like, whoa. And that was at the time when I was scheduled for my first cancer operation. I was introduced to Reiki, and I promised myself, if I survive this journey with cancer, I want to learn how to do this and share this gift with others. So that's what I've been doing for the last 30 years. My Reiki Master training came first, then my nutritionist training, and then I topped it off with transpersonal counseling to combine the body, mind, and spirit work that we need to do to become whole again. I studied shamanism for 15 years because in shamanism, they see everything as energy. We're related to the trees, the sky, the earth, the waters. They're all elements and aspects of us. And not just are we physical beings with emotions and a mind and a spirit, but at the center, we are sexual beings. And if our sexual energy gets, they call it, when the children's fire gets harmed, your sexual life force gets harmed. Freud talks about it in libido, that what gives you zest for life. All other aspects are impacted as well. Your mind, your emotions, your spirit, and your physical get impacted when your sexual life force gets threatened or harmed. And so in studying shamanism, I learned the art of sacred sexuality and reclaim those aspects that had been, through ceremony, through connecting with nature, through teachings on the medicine wheel, to reconnect with the natural aspects of all of me. And that is what I now combine to help other people reclaim all of us. And even in the grief work that I do, rituals and ceremonies are very important to acknowledge the losses. We have lost my innocent childhood, lost my mother, lost my hope for having a healthy, trusting relationship with my father, which I rebuilt before he died of cancer himself. But it's the losses that still need to be addressed. And it helps to have a ritual, a ceremony. Nature is a wonderful healer, spending a time by the water or by trees or with animals. Hugely powerful gifts that are available to all of us. They don't cost a lot of money, and they can sustain us and rebuild and reverse the aging process, because that's what was needed. Once my digestive system rebuilt, which took 4 years for the digestive system to rebuild. So it's all possible. And I wouldn't want to give hope to others to not give up. It's never too late to reclaim your birthright, peace and joy.
Now, are you still in British Columbia?
I
remained there?
I lived 20 years in Germany, 20 years in Ontario, and now I'm 18 years in British Columbia. Who knows what will happen the next 2 years? But right now, I love living by the ocean, and I find the ocean tremendously healing. Salt water itself. If you don't live by the ocean, have some saltwater bath or even a foot bath.
Oh, yes.
It rebalances amazingly. It's very grounding for us, especially when we're going through emotional, challenging times. So I do that 5 times a week. I am with my feet in the ocean, especially in the summertime now.
Lucky you. Lucky you, because I love the beach. I love the ocean, and I know the power of the salt water. It's tremendous.
It
and
is.
now you see clients in person and online as well, correct?
Yes, in person and online. And I've been in private practice now, and my modality of connecting nutrition and counseling and energy for the last, since 2011. So, wow.
Yeah.
12 years.
Number of years.
Yeah.
But it's all encompassing.
Because I've worked in the energy.
It's kind of, similar to what I do. Train traditionally and incorporate holistic and alternative methods, because it does, don't you find it gives the full picture? It gives the full treatment to the client.
Mhm. It does. And I teach at the Institute of Holistic Nutrition in Vancouver, the Psychology of Disease module, which is one of 12 modules to become a holistic nutritionist.
Oh,
Because,
lovely.
yes, and we're looking at material like Bruce Lipton's biology of belief, how our belief system is impacting our biology, and
Oh, yes.
why people don't heal and how they can, and how your body speaks a language to get your attention. It's working with you, for you, not against you. Even cancer is the body's attempt to get your attention, to bring you back to balance. That we have, Albert Einstein basically said once, the most important question a human can ask himself is this universe a friendly place? And depending on how you answer that question, is it a friendly place? Yes or no, or maybe. Depends on your perception. What you believe becomes your reality. You think everything is happening for you, it's good, it's a friendly universe. That includes so-called diseases like cancer. It's working for you. Whereas you think, oh no, it's not a trustworthy universe and bad things happen, then you would interpret something happening and find evidence that, see, it harmed me. It's a bad. So depending on our belief,
self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Because you've already put that thought out there.
Right. And how quickly we can recover from something that was unexpected, and what is the good that can come from it. If we are open to seeing it, we will always find the silver lining. But we have to be willing to see what good is coming from this. My mom dying at when I was 12. What good can possibly come from that? Well, I gained a lot of compassion. And I know the importance of having a nurturing mother-child relationship, giving that to my inner child now and to my clients, and teaching them to give it to their inner child, because it's so important to have that mothering, nurturing energy. So it gave me a lot of compassion and empathy, and it made me a more effective grief counselor for others who've had losses.
I find that often I, at least in my experience, I have two types of clients. Those that you need to assist in understanding the thoughts that they have and they put out in the universe, and that through thinking positively, they can heal themselves. And then other clients that come in with unresolved issues and trauma that may have to address those first. Do you find that as well?
I find that there's a spectrum of conscious awareness of where we are, in how much we've reclaimed our power as we have an inner healer, and how much access we have to it. So there's a spectrum of my clients of how aware they are in claiming it. It's there for everybody. And some are more practiced at tapping into it. And the tools, like when I teach a Reiki class and people learn to give Reiki to themselves, to recharge themselves, that's claiming more of that ability for the inner healer system to say, I can. Basically, being a Reiki master is saying, I take full responsibility for my own healing, for my own energy. And we're not all there yet, but we have the potential to be there, to say, I'm in charge of my own energy and healing. And so I get clients at various stages along that journey. Yes, for sure.
And so now what have you been doing, I guess, post-pandemic? Were you hit badly in the western part of Canada? I'm assuming you were also in lockdown for a while.
We were, and I am so blessed that I am living in a house with a large garden. So I was able to enjoy my apple trees and rose bushes, and I grow my own food. That's my passion, to make food be my medicine. And I found that was a wonderful way to even gather in parks and still have community with the required safe distance. And it was wonderful to realize the healing power and the nature of how we are designed to have a healthy immune system, regardless of what's happening around us. And our belief of that can strengthen us.
So true.
Say placebo versus nocebo. Everything's bad for you, everything's good for you. So I have a
Mhm.
strong belief in the placebo of like, and I don't think it's a placebo, that sunlight and water and air and love, laughter are our natural doctors that we can tap into. So that was a
Oh,
wonderful opportunity during
absolutely.
the pandemic to remind people of and to join them. We would go for walks in forest rather than meeting in the office or
Yes.
that. Yes.
I mean,
So that,
I had a lot of clients through telehealth online because of HIPAA uh, laws and protection. I needed to use telehealth for clients.
right.
Some enjoy it and they're still there, but I did meet some clients. I went to them, we met within the safe distance, and I met them on the outside. And of course, how wonderful to be in nature. I enjoyed it myself. It was
Yes.
fabulous to be in nature as well. So much so that I've permacultured my property. So we grow
perfect.
pretty much everything here
Nice.
that we use. Yes. No animal products, not enough. I mean, not that I would do that anyway, but no animal products, not enough land, but enough to permaculture fruits and vegetables, which we had already had a smaller garden. But I so agree with you about nutrition being a very big component in your healing journey.
Yes. And that's something I'm so grateful for. I grew up with that as natural part, right? I'm in a small community with farming parents. And even though my dad worked full time, we still had a big garden. We had horses. One year we would have cows, one year we would have pigs, and we would slaughter them and keep the meat to feed the family because we had 4 brothers. They eat a lot of food.
Yes.
Yeah. And I'm very grateful that I have that built in, generations of growing your own food. And I was surprised. I had a group of people come to learn about gardening last year, and we had people who never pulled a radish from the ground or held a watering hose. And it was like, oh, how can you not know that? But there is, right? There is that generation that has never been exposed to growing your own food, and I find it so important. So I've been teaching classes to children and families how to bring even a balcony growing in a flower box.
Yes.
Growing your
That's
own.
wonderful. That's absolutely wonderful. What a service to provide, because you are right that a lot of people have never done anything like that and don't know where to start. But that's so true about the container gardening.
Yes, there's a lot you can do in indoor growing now with microgreens and things. There's so many things that everybody can be a little green thumb gardener, and it's good grief work too, to be having, if you can, have your hands in the soil. It's very grounding, stabilizing, and helps whatever losses you are currently experiencing or reclaiming, recovering from. Because grief, you know the saying they have that, oh, time heals all wounds. Do you agree with that?
To some extent, I believe it does. To some extent, I believe it does. I believe that people learn to take the grief with them. They learn to maybe go over it or around it, but it's somehow still there. But you do have to go on. So they find ways to go on.
Yes, time heals all wounds. And the second part of that sentence is, as long as you use the time wisely to do the healing work, then with time, your wounds can heal. But if you're just waiting for time to pass by and things magically go away, no, it's not like that. It's not like a glass of chlorinated water. You just let it with time evaporate on its own. You have to do an active participation in the work. Then with time, you can definitely heal your wounds. Funny how some of those sentences just like half sentence, half truth.
Well, no, right, exactly. I mean, that I agree with. Right.
Yeah.
If you want to heal yourself, you want to heal your wounds, yes, but you have to do the work. There's no magic pill. There's no magic wand that passes by you immediately. You have to do the work because you want to heal. That I agree with. But I do believe that there are wounds that you learn to live with.
Yes. And that is an interesting point, because my mother always said that. It took me a while to decipher what she meant by that. She always used to say, nothing is eaten as hot as it's being cooked. I was like, what does that mean? And what she meant by that is that when things happen in life, right, when things are being in the cooking, in the processing stage, they might be too hot to digest. You can't eat them. You'll burn yourself if you try to process that. But when it cools down, when some time has passed, when a wound that you get used to, you get to explore the depth and the crevices of it. And in the wound itself, like sometimes our hearts get broken. That's a wound. Our hearts break and they can't be fixed again. But you can see that a broken heart, the wounds in our heart, is where the light shines through. That when it's all said and done, when the dust settles, the brokenheartedness, the losses we've experienced, they're actually gateways to open us up to new realms of understanding, to compassion, to the importance of the people that we loved, and knowing that time is precious. I am ever so much more conscious of letting people that I love know that I love them, because we don't know how much time we have left with them. But that I learned from the wound of losing my mother when I was 12.
So very true. And I think you never get over the loss of a parent.
No, you don't.
I think you never do. It's almost a shock when it happens, no matter. I mean, of course, as a child, it's almost incomprehensible. But even as an adult, you know the flow of life, the patterns of life, but you still somehow have to deal with that grief when it happens. You still somehow, right? You still somehow find you're almost left in shock when it occurs. Definitely. Especially when we feel our parents are superheroes. Our parents know everything, have done everything. I mean, I, as a child, that's how, I mean, I was fortunate. My sister and I speak about this all the time. We were very fortunate. We had the most wonderful parents that gave us everything and taught us to be who we are. And yet, when you look at them, you think that they're indestructible and that they're immortal, that they're superheroes. And the reality is, as you get older, that's not what happens, because that's just not life. And I think that losing a parent, it's always difficult, especially for a child.
Nothing can prepare you for that. That's true. Yeah. It was very different when I was 12 and my mom died than when I was 42 and my dad died, because I wasn't prepared. I didn't know how sick she was. I knew she was gone to the hospital a lot, but I didn't know why and how bad it was. And you don't think in those lines. And it wasn't talked about with children in those days. And when my dad died, I knew that he had cancer 3 years prior to his death. We talked about it. He shared his feelings with me, how scared he was, and what regrets he had in life. And I was able to tell him what he meant to me. And we cried together, we laughed together. We did a lot of the, what I call anticipatory grief work leading up to death. We did that. I was still sad. I cried when he died. But I recovered knowing he's in a better place, knowing we were complete. And it actually gives me great comfort that we shared as much as we did prior to him passing. I didn't have that chance with my mom. I needed to do a lot of letter writing to say the things I didn't get to say when she was alive. It was more work. It's still impactful. And I miss my dad, but it's not the same ache that it had with my mom, because I didn't do the emotional work and the completion and preparation prior to her dying. So it does make an impact of how we cope with it. Not that it takes away having to cope with it, but there are some steps that we can definitely do to ease the journey and the impact and have it be, bring us back to wholeness. That yes, death is part of life, but I still feel my dad and my mom with me, or my daughter who died when I was pregnant with her when I was 30. I lost her in the second trimester, and
oh my gosh,
that
so
loss
sorry.
at the time, losing a child, it's another big topic that is difficult to talk about.
Devastating. That's a wound I feel. That's a wound I feel you take with you and have to learn to live with. I don't know if that wound ever goes away.
Yeah, it leaves a hole. I pierced my nose to symbolize the hole that it left. Because at the time I thought, I'll have other children. and then I didn't. And it's the secondary losses. Not only did you lose your child, but
Mhm.
you lose the opportunity to see their first day of school, or they're falling in love, or they're getting married, or them having babies, like all the secondary losses. I
Mhm.
don't get to be a grandma now. Like all of those
Mhm.
things that nobody prepares you for, that keeps hitting you when you see mother and child or grandparent and children. You go like, not me, right? And
Oh, absolutely.
I named my daughter Joy, to always remember that I'm the mother of joy, that even in the grief and the loss and the
Mhm.
ache that we have, there can be
Mhm.
joy in it. I'm so happy for others to have what they have. And through them, I delight. Rather than feeling jealousy, I can feel a bit bittersweetness. Grief is a bit like dark chocolate, it's bittersweet.
Yes.
It has that. And it deepens us, definitely. The wounds that we have, they deepen us. To live life with more awareness, more fullness, more preciousness, and seizing the moments that we do have.
So very true.
Do you have children, grandchildren now, Marisa?
I have one child, and she's 22,
Okay.
but she was almost not here either. I had her when I was 25 weeks pregnant.
Whoa. Yeah.
So that if nothing else, that taught me that we do not control a thing. We do not control a thing. And it was just, and I was and I was a control person. I was 22 hours every day at the hospital, sitting in the chair for 3 months, and making sure that anything that they did or anything that happened, I was there watching, but still having to learn that we have no control over anything. And I was fortunate. I was fortunate because she just had to stay there and gain weight. But there were many, many babies there that were not as fortunate. They had many things going on. So it was a big education for me. It was a big eye-opening experience to realize that you really have no control over anything. The mere fact that we get up tomorrow, we have no control over. That's why we need to make the best of every day at the moment.
Not take nothing for granted. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's very humbling, isn't it, to know that we're not in charge, whether you live or die or somebody else
Yes.
does, or how long they are in your life for. You just
Yes.
really humbling. Yeah, every moment is magical and precious.
Yes. I mean, I take the time to consciously think that, because I'm a believer that we all pulsate, we all are one, we all give and take from one another with energy. So I give thoughts every day that there's a bigger picture, and that we are all one, and we are all here, and we'll all, wherever it is that the shell doesn't go but other things go, that it's our purpose. But it is difficult as a human being, of course. Even as a therapist, it's difficult, especially those big questions. I mean, I say to you, I mean, I find that you're so brave, for example, so brave to confront the issue of abuse with your father. That's brave to do. And many people don't do that. But, with that has to come some forgiveness, right? I mean, I'm sure right? Forgiveness really happens for us, right? For us, not the individual we forgive. Because if you don't do the forgiveness, you can't move forward.
For giving, yes. It's giving first for yourself, to set yourself free. See that image of the chain being broken to get the freedom, to the bird spreading its wing. The shell that we're in has to break. It's like the bird can't hatch until the old structure goes. And when I forgave my dad, we don't do the healing work alone. That's why we need therapists and counselors and energy workers. Right. To get that support, to have the courage to confront the shell that we were in, the norm, the boundaries, and open them up to find our freedom again. When I confronted my dad, I was so proud that finally, after like 15 years of counseling, I've forgiven my dad for what he did, because he didn't know any better, because he was basically a child trapped in an adult body. And I told him on the phone, I said, Dad, I forgive you. His response was priceless. I didn't expect what he was saying. He didn't say, oh, thank you, or anything that you would expect, like, oh, I'm so relieved. No, none of that. He said, forgive me for what? There is nothing to forgive. I was like, whoa. And it really took me back to realize, from his perspective, and from spiritual perspective, we're all doing our very best. On one level, there is nothing to forgive, but our beliefs that we've been harmed, or that something was taken from us that isn't reclaimable. Then I can see the innocent in him, and I've reclaimed my own innocence. On that level, he's been a teacher to me to regain who I really am. I'm much bigger than my physical body, my sexual body. I'm much bigger than that. And I don't think I would have necessarily been able to get in touch with that or claim it had I not encountered these, who am I? What is this all about? What does it mean? When I forgave, I realized I'm more than my physical body or emotional or mental body. I am a spiritual being in a human form. And that claiming that freedom, that spiritual journey he almost was yeast for the bread to rise, for me to come to my fullness. In that sense, on a spiritual plane, he did me an opening. You know how when you have a fever in your body, you want to bring the fever down, but the fever is its place to burn up some of the invaders, right? It's like everything has its reason and its place. And when we can claim that, wow, we are way further ahead on the spiritual journey and to wholeness. So forgiveness is a big part for setting ourselves free and realizing what is the truth about this, and seeing someone else's perspective, not at the loss of your own. My pain, my sadness, my grief is very real, but so is his. And when they can be coexisting, wow, we're in this together. There's no perpetrator and victim anymore. There's just two people healing.
Right. I mean, I have to agree with you. I know with clients, I always try to have them see for example, the perpetrator. You know, what exactly did they go through that made them as they are? Not that it negates your pain and your suffering and what happened to you, but that the understanding that their life, the perpetrator's life, has with it its own issues, its own path that person has to be on, just to open up one's mind to help the client to begin the healing process. Not that the pain is not real, but always to look at the other perspective. I think that opens up a door for them to begin to heal. I don't think so. Oftentimes I see when I speak with them, their face, that they don't even think that way until it's been said, because I guess the anger, the hurt, the frustration that they bring with them, they don't have the time to see that until maybe it's pointed out. And not that you don't have a right to be hurt, or you don't have a right to express that hurt that you have, or a time for you to grieve, because you have a right to grieve. You have a right to grieve for what you've lost. You have a right to have that anger with you, that you have been hurt by someone. But sometimes for them to see that other perspective, like you say, for them to coexist, it has to coexist. There's a purpose for everything.
Yeah. I like the image of the river as part of our healing journey. You have to enter the river of life to go into the tumultuousness of all the emotions that are there. The hurt, the anger, the betrayal, the disappointment, the fear, the sadness, all of those mucky emotions. We have to enter that river. And the river, every time you enter it, it's different, right? You can Every time it's different. But what we want to make sure is if we don't stay in the river in the middle, go back to where we came and back in the river, we want to go to the other side. Otherwise, we stay in our, what Eckhart Tolle calls the wound pool, right? We stay in it. Oh, we get lots of evidence there of all the bad things. We have to clean it out. We have to cross the river over to the other side where we can have a new perspective. So, but you can only do one step at a time, right?
That's right.
Enter it in and explore. What is it like? Don't stay stuck there. Keep walking. People that want to skip across the river to the other side, they never heal the wound. You have to clean it out. Some, like my siblings would say to me, "Oh, leave the past alone, move on," right? Which is a coping mechanism, but it's a skipping ahead. There is value in exploring the wound, and there is caution to not stay in the wound. Both is true. Explore it in order to have a stronger foundation, to have the healing be complete. You have to cross it to the other side. Your own timing. And it's
exactly.
Right? Yeah.
Exactly. Everybody's steps are different. Everybody's journey across that river takes them the time that it takes them. Correct. And that's, you can't compare to someone else's journey.
Oh, even two people having the same loss, like when husband and wife lose a child, their journey will be very different of how long it takes them or what steps they take or in which order. Like Elizabeth Kubler-Ross talks about those 5 stages of grief. They don't come in order, right? They go time. Yeah.
And we know that, and some people stay in certain stages for longer than others. In fact, I do a workshop with people called "You Have a Right to Grieve," because that is some subject that a lot of people find uncomfortable. And when you're the individual that's, I'm sure you found with clients, you're the individual that's grieving, and other people, they may not know what to say to you. They feel uncomfortable. Not that they want you to hurry up and get over it, but they, in their uncomfortableness, they would like that situation to change, and it changes differently for different people. And one should never feel, and that's how I say it to them, one should never feel that they don't have a right to grieve, because you do. And your grief is your own, and it takes you however long it takes you.
Yeah, that's right. And there is things that you can do to support yourself along the journey, such as certain foods to eat and certain foods to avoid.
Yes.
Which is hard because we crave carbs when we're feeling upset, right? We want those carbs, but we have healthier choices for what is nourishing us to regain strength rather than weaken us. And boy, do I wish I would have known that when I was 29 and the immune system broke down, that even healthy choices, like I thought I'm eating raw vegetables, salads, and why is my immune system breaking down? Well, little did I know that cold raw food is actually harder to digest if you don't have digestive enzymes. I needed to have cooked food for 4 years. I couldn't eat anything raw or cold. I couldn't even have ice cream or soda pop, but none of that. For 4 years, I needed to have cooked food only, and maybe a steamed apple. That was it. And it's
now, did a nutritionist find, how did you come to find this out? A medical doctor or a nutritionist or a therapist that did what you do now?
Yeah, so the medical doctor that was a naturopath that helped me with my first cancer journey, his wife had overcome cancer, and she was teaching macrobiotic diets. So I heard about macrobiotic diet, and then I enrolled into the holistic nutritionist program and learned all the ins and outs, and specifically Ayurveda, because Ayurveda bases our body type, where we live, what we do for work, our stage of life. Children have different nutritional needs than adults than seniors, men than women, body size, activity level, all of that. The season plays a role of what we're eating when and how and how much. And learning that and empowering other people to learn about their body types and what's right for them and why and when and how much and in what combination, that has been the biggest impact on my recovery, to know the right fuel for my car, right? Basically.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's truly true. It is like a vehicle.
Yeah.
Our bodies are vehicles that we have to fill with the proper things in order for them to run correctly.
That's
It's
right.
so true.
And once in a while, we need to do a filter change, right? A little bit of a cleanse. And what's the right cleanse for you? Like
right.
if people want some help with that, it's definitely better than just picking up a book and thinking you can figure it out on your own.
Oh, exactly. I do find that a lot of the food choices that are out there, though, even though that's another topic for discussion, a lot of the food choices out there are not good for people. And some people don't have it as easy to obtain the correct foods. That's why I find what you're doing, teaching them how to grow their own food, that's really one of the most important things, is then you're not under someone's thumb and it's not subjected to the rules of the land.
Yes. And if you are one of those people that have limited choices, there is definite things you can do to improve the quality of food that you do have by blessing it. Because when we say a blessing over our food, we only take the good parts and not the harmful ones. And that becomes a saving grace. We had a person who was a homeless person, basically eating out of trash cans, whatever they could find in there. And they had their hair was falling out and their skin was in rough condition. And they were just physically so full of inflammation and aches and pains. And then they started to bless whatever scraps they could find before they ate them. And I kid you not, they improved in their physical health, was benefiting from prayer. The prana, the life force that we add by our blessing things, not to be underestimated. We have access to spirit no matter where we are. Blessing our whatever quality food you have, huge difference. I mean, every time I have my hands in the soil, I'm blessing the soil and I'm getting these seeds to grow. But why not do it with whatever quality food you have to bring out the best in it by blessing it?
Oh, I'll have to try that especially when my hands are in the soil.
Yeah. Dr. Emoto showed, right, that what messages we send to
absolutely
water molecules, everything has water molecules.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's definitely not a woo-woo thing anymore.
No. They've done scientific experiments with plants.
Yeah.
Plants with music that could be harmful to there's the sound of music being harmful, the talking to plants, the way in which you speak to them. They've done a lot of research on that to see how they grow. Are they nurtured? Can they grow with this or not? I mean, that we know. And of course, the water. Yes. I mean, the molecules of water. Absolutely. Again, it's all because of the energy, right? The energy and the pulsating of all of us.
Yes.
And what we give and take. You know, how we're all one. I mean, theoretically, we're one with the water, right?
Right. Do you have that saying that birthday cake doesn't have calories?
Yes.
Do you know why that is?
No, why? I've heard of it.
Okay, when we have birthday cake, we feel we deserve it. So we don't feel guilty. Right? It's my birthday. I can have it. I give myself permission and I'm so grateful and I love it. And that energy welcomes that food. That love vibration takes it higher, a whole nother vibrational level higher. But if you feel guilty, like, I shouldn't, right? Or you're like resentful, it's only chocolate cake. I wanted vanilla cake, right? Those vibrational, emotional vibrations, they are lower frequencies and they just
I'm going to have to try that on the scale. I'm going to have to try that on the scale, right? Get on the scale and say, this was an opportunity for me to eat this. It was my birthday, and see if no pounds go on the scale. That would be true.
Well, it's conscious and subconscious, right? Not feeling guilty and loving it and having gratitude for it. So even if you have low quality, be grateful for what you do have. I'm so grateful for this, rather than, this is just crappy. That attitude of gratitude, definitely goes through your system very differently. And I love when people experiment with where the energy of that food is going. I had a healer friend, who would direct the energy of food being processed in his body to grow his hair shiny and long. And I kid you not, he fastest, richest, strongest
Wow.
growing hair. It was so fabulous. So when you have that, an area in your body that you would like to empower, and if it's just the physical strength or the quality of your skin or hair or the nails being brittle, send the food energy there. This bite, this is going to grow my strong nails. And do that consistently and see how it will pay off, because our beliefs impact our biology, right? What we believe becomes true. So have fun with this one. Experiment.
Yeah, that's a good experiment to try.
Right?
For everyone to try on their own, a good experiment to try. I mean, something simple, your nails, your skin, that's really, and I'm definitely going to try the cake one with the scale. That's for sure. So now, Angelika, let me ask you, how can people get a hold of you if they want to work with you? I mean, naturally, those that are near you, they can work with you in person, but how can people get a hold of you online? And what are you doing now? I mean, I'm sure you have tons of clients and you're very busy, but I'm sure my audience is going to ask, how could we speak with you? How could we get a hold of you to work with you?
Yeah, and I'm sure we will include it in a link that
absolutely.
My website, and I can be reached by phone. I can be reached by Zoom. I have my own podcast on the Good Morning Show, that if people want to learn more about tips on how to go through the grief journey with more ease and grace to reclaim their birthright of peace and joy, I have that to get in touch with me as well. And
I definitely will put that in the description information, because I'm sure people would love to hear that. And what the podcast is on what? What do you stream to a number of locations?
Yes, it's a YouTube and Facebook, and I have
wonderful
e-newsletter that people can join to find out about upcoming workshops and classes and courses that I offer.
Oh, wonderful. Yes, I will put all that in the description.
Yeah, beautiful.
That's great. I want to thank you so much for coming today. I so appreciate it. It was a wonderful conversation, a conversation that could go on for many hours.
It's
I
wonderful to hear what similar work we do and how this is so needed, right? More
absolutely.
Have to find the right people to work with for the next step of their healing journey. So thank you so much for having me on your show.
Oh, you're quite welcome. Thank you for coming. And I hope that I can have you on again. There's always something to talk about.
That's true. Yes. And
thank you so much.
Look forward to having you on my show coming up soon.
Oh, that would be lovely. Thank you. Thank you for the offer. That would be great. I definitely am going to listen to it. Absolutely. I will do that. And I will put everything in the information, all the description for people. Again, thank you. And hopefully we'll speak again soon. Have a wonderful day, Angelika.
Thank you, Marisa. All blessings to you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.